Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight for our Village of Alsip. Tonight's a committee meeting. Today's January 31st, 2022, and we'll call this meeting in order at 7:30 p.m. Before we get started, can I get a motion and a second to approve Eric O'Donnell will be tonight's village clerk?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Erica, can you call the roll, please?
Trustee Dizelle?
Here.
Trustee Juarez is absent. Trustee McLaughlin?
Here.
Trustee Murphy is absent. Trustee Nava Esparza?
Here.
Trustee Pareto?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I'm here as well, too.
Oh, sorry. Mayor Ryan's here too.
No problem. Will you join us, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance?
And do a lot of practice.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. I'm going to go a little bit out of order. Obviously, we've got a few people in the audience. I always like to be cognizant of everybody's time, so we'll try and get folks up to address us for what matters they have here on tonight's agenda. I will say very quickly, under my report this evening, I had on here was a discussion regarding the need for the approval to implement Dude Solutions software. We had a good meeting with them on Friday, but I didn't get any pricing today. Remember, he did send to you? It never made it to me. I didn't. In fact, I just double checked a little while ago. If you can send it over, okay. I'd like to go out of order here, and we can come back to our reports. First, I believe in the audience, Roger just told me that under village properties, Trustee McLaughlin, there's somebody. Do we have somebody here from TAC, gentlemen? Okay. Trustee McLaughlin, do you want to introduce? Take your report, please, and we'll have somebody talk to us here from TAC.
Well, at this time, we're going to get a presentation from Total Automation Concepts, our present building automation system that controls the HVAC system, and it is being proposed that we upgrade to a 5-year contract.
So, gentlemen, if you want to come up, and Roger, can you get a microphone for him, please? Sure. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, no, go ahead. No, please.
I'd like to introduce myself, Scott Proper with Total Automation Concepts, and this is actually my son Zach. He's our lead estimator and engineer. Just to give you a little background, we are a division of, or a portion of Amber Mechanical right here in Alsip, Illinois. We've been doing the building automation system in the building, multiple buildings throughout the village for quite some time now. I just want to thank you for giving us the time to discuss this project or this proposal, and wanted to give you a little background on when some of the things were installed here, and then Zach's going to go over the proposal that we are presenting and what it entails and some of the details about equipment that will be installed, as well as the software agreement to put into place over the next 5 years. Back in 2008, we did a project at the Fire Station 1. At that time, I believe the old Novar system that was used in some of the buildings was failing. The main web controller was replaced and installed at that time, giving some outside access to the building automation at that location. There was a rooftop controller installed, as well as heat plant and controls for 10 separate reheat coils. At that time, it was a Zenta controller that was installed, web-based controller. It was probably the latest thing out at the time. It is still in place in that building, and at this point, it is extremely outdated. About 4 years later, there was a boiler replacement project at the Public Works, Fire Station 1, and Fire Station 2. At that time, we did integration with controllers. New automation servers that had just come out were installed at Fire Station 2 and at Public Works. They were what pretty much set up the front end at each one of those locations and also allowed web access to those locations from a centralized location. I believe at that time it was decided not to do Fire Station 1. It had just been done 4 years earlier, was functioning well, and I think in somewhat of a sense of trying to keep down some costs and everything, at that time the front end server at that location was left in place. Then in 2014, this building, Fire Station Village Hall, was pretty much recontrolled from top to bottom. There was an automation server put in here, an enterprise server that brings all of these automation servers together under one central computer where you can access it and see what's going on at each one of the locations. At the time, they were state-of-the-art 8, 10, 14 years ago when some of these things went in. Obviously, with different technology and computers, I know you know how frequently you change computers or laptops, and that's pretty much what these are small computers that are running everything, constantly in need of firmware upgrades, things like that. But right now, even though everything is functioning, we've gotten to the point where they are no longer their end of life as far as software upgrades or any technical support from Schneider Electric.
Okay.
So I'm going to let Zach go over some of the things we were talking about installing, and if you have any questions about anything at any time, feel free to ask.
Sure.
Yeah, so basically the main reason for that background was just to explain that right now the software version you guys are running is quite out of date. It's from about 2014, 2015. There is newer software for the hardware you guys have, but that hardware has reached end of life because it's so old and so out of date. So as part of the proposal that we are providing you guys is a 5-year maintenance contract for the software, but also a portion of it is to replace the supervisory hardware controllers that are in place from 2014, 2008, because honestly, those are end of life. They're no longer supported by Schneider Electric, and so the path forward is to install the newest supervisory controllers. Right now, you guys are on version 1.6.1, which might not mean anything to you guys, but it is Schneider considers a critical version in terms of there is some sort of software bug or vulnerability on critical versions that they deem it necessary to update them as soon as possible. Proposals have been provided over the years, and so far, we're still at that version. So we're really looking to provide a path forward for the next 5 years to get you guys on track for the latest software and security updates. Software updates give you enhancements for usability, but the biggest thing is security patches. Right now, you've got web-enabled devices that are connected to your network that have not been updated in quite some time. As far as Fire Station 1, that Zenta controller is quite out of date, and it actually is not even incorporated as part of the central system for access. So under this proposal, that would also be pulled in with the rest of the village. Village Hall, Police Station, Fire Station 2, and Public Works. Fire Station 1 would be incorporated as well.
So, Zach, I want to jump in real quick, just because a lot of folks might not understand what we're talking about here, too.
Yes.
Total automated control is a system that was put in place. I was here when in 2000. I've been here since 2011 when I was a trustee. But I remember what these folks did was they put in a computer automated HVAC system here, so it can oversee our heating, air conditioning, keep everything comfortable with the computer monitoring all the time. So manually, nobody's going home on a Friday night, like old school, and leaving the heat running all weekend and things like that, or the air conditioner and so forth. So, Zach, aside from the HVAC, is it doing anything else in our buildings too, or is it just all temperature control? Is that what you're doing?
It's all temperature control.
Gotcha. I just wanted, because sometimes folks get lost in all the technical data here and stuff, and too, so I get it. I just wanted to make sure everybody else did.
I will say, just real quick, apart from being able to access it, adjust things from home, do scheduling and things like that, the heat plant boilers, they don't run off something as simple as a thermostat. So these are the controllers that actually hold the logic that tell the boilers how to run to make sure that you have heat in the winter when you're supposed to have it, to make sure that you're saving as much energy as you can by not having them run hotter than they need to run, or running too cold to give you the heat that you need. So there's a lot of background logic that resides within the system that encompasses many different aspects of the HVAC.
Very good. So, Roger explained to me that, as you just did, the system is exhausted from where it stands right now from a software standpoint. I didn't see, unless I missed it, and Roger said he's got this incorporated in his budget, but what is the cost to upgrade into the new system?
So there is two separate aspects to this. There is the actual hardware portion, and with that hardware we would do basically like the first year's base software updates and everything. So that's $48,275. And then across the 5 years of software maintenance support, it is $58,380.
Okay. So, one more, I'm sorry, Zach, I was behind. 48,
I can hand this to you.
okay, so it's 48,000, that's right, the trustee,
It's
48
on
for the
page-
new software, right?
So
It's on page 37
Under
of the
the
packet there.
48,275 would be the new supervisory controllers to replace the outdated ones.
Okay.
And it would also be software and firmware across the board. Everything, the day we finish it, will be completely as up-to-date as you can get. And then the 5-year maintenance is a supplement to that, where you'd have continual software updates, yearly software updates, as well as quarterly evaluations of the system to make sure that we're staying on top of everything, nothing crops up that's unexpected in terms of controller failures. Without something like a maintenance contract, you could have a controller fail and all of a sudden you're in an emergency situation where you didn't expect it. The purpose of the maintenance contracts, not only are we keeping you up to date, making sure you have the latest security patches and enhancements, but also making sure that we catch anything that might crop up in terms of field device controller failures or issues before they become an emergency.
Okay.
Is the rest of the system covered by another maintenance program?
Not at this time.
Okay. Because we've got more issues than just the controllers, right? I mean, aren't there zone valves and compressors and some other things that are causing you grief?
Right now, no. Right now, it's the automation end of it. If if a zone goes out, we do get it fixed, but this is alerting us to those issues.
Right. But it's my understanding that there are certain zones that are too hot or too cold, and there's been issues.
There was in the summertime, yes.
Okay.
There was a compressor that was down.
No, Chief, I know your office is always kind of funny like that all the time.
I'd say we
That's,
go on a field trip if you want.
yeah, it's,
Right, and I mean, if we're going to address this thing, if pardon me for simplifying it, if the thermostat tells you up or down, but the plant isn't responding, the thermostat doesn't help us. So your end of it, the automation side, great, I'm all for it, but if we're going to fix this thing, I think we should fix this thing.
When we go through and do the main controllers, there's programming that's gone through. In this case, because we're updating those supervisory controllers, graphics and everything are changed. Our guys go through and test every part of the system to make sure if there is something not functioning, we can catch it at that time. If it's something that, even thermostats, there's firmware upgrades that are done to all those as well.
Right.
At the time this is done. So
It just seems to me that I remember when the Novar controllers put in, and that was going to be the answer to everything. And it didn't work. So I know that Roger was fighting with that issue many a times. And I'm assuming, this being the newer years, Roger was able to do this remotely, and it's still going to be the situation, right?
Very true.
Okay. And then you guys, worst case is, you guys can get in the back end as well in order to diagnose and...
That's the nice thing with the web-based controllers, and especially like right now, Fire Station 1 is not online. There are a lot of times, whether it's from Roger, I know I talked to Bob Ricker, we were out looking at some stuff out at the one station. We're able to remote in. There's a lot of times that if something, you say you have a cold zone, it may be something that we just have to recommission something. Typically, if it's something we can do in a few minutes, there's no bill sent out, but you've saved yourself a service call for having a mechanical contractor come out and look at it. So it's nice from the standpoint with that remote access, being able to go through things. We can look at a program, we can check something, we can look at trend logs and say, okay, this is when it started happening. Maybe we have to look at this mechanically, or is it something in the program and it can all be done remotely, saving, like I said, a service call or having somebody even come out and try and diagnose mechanically what's going on.
All right. Looks like you don't get your fireplace, Chief.
I'll make a note of that.
All right, and
Thank you.
Thanks for Trustee. I skipped right over. I saw it. We've got all these in our packets that we're seeing on our computers here. Where I see all your quotes right here and stuff like that too. So,
One question I have is how long would installation take for all of this?
So, right now with the chip shortage, the biggest delay is actually parts acquisition, because the supervisory controllers are about 2 months out. We do have some inventory in our local warehouse, but I think that might be allocated already. So it would be a couple months before those come in, and then the time frame to actually perform the work. The guys can actually do some of the back-end stuff software-wise before the controllers actually arrive. We can take backups of the current system, kind of start preparing everything so that when the new controllers come, we can load the firmware in quickly and have all those graphics updates, all that back-end stuff kind of performed in the meantime. So once those controllers arrive, the turnover time should be only maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. And Roger, are you planning on trying to get this done in this fiscal year or waiting till next fiscal year?
I was looking to get it done before May 1,
Because as I
not this fiscal year.
don't see it in the budget.
I will go through it, make sure before next week.
Okay. Because, I mean, there is $18,000 for maintenance with TAC, but I'm not seeing basically the $50,000 anywhere for the actual upgrade of the hardware.
We'll go through it, make sure and verify it.
Okay. 'Cause that's what
To add to that, most of the firmware upgrades for the devices that are existing, thermostats, everything like that, we could start immediately. It is just the issue of waiting for those central controllers that's right now the longest lead time.
okay. All right. Obviously, we've got your company's equipment already in place here now. So, I think Trustee Dalzell, I'll defer to you. You're more computer savvy than myself, but would it make sense to look at an RFP? Do you think we just sole source this because we've already got this equipment in place?
Oh, I believe it's an upgrade rather than...
Right. Okay. Just want to be fair to the situation. All right. We'll look at our budget then, gentlemen. Make sure that we can cover this and so forth, as Roger said. And Trustee, if this is your committee, if you want to, if we got to support, we can talk about it next week at board meeting then too. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot then, gentlemen. Thanks much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just ask you to sign in, please, before you go?
And then
Or business card.
Roger, you said
HRE will be tabled until the 14th.
that's what you're just telling us about HRE. Next week? 2 weeks? 2 weeks, okay. All right, thank you. And then next I saw Adam Dodson was here, and then under Adam, you were here for a 6B?
Correct.
Okay. Trustee Paretta, did you want to take that under ordinance legislation?
Thank you, Mayor. All right, item number 1, an ordinance of the Village of Alsip approving Class 6B assessment status for the real estate located at 4134 West 127th Street, pins 24-27-401-018-0000, pin 24-27-401-023-0000, and pin 24-27-401-049-0000, in the Village of Alsip, Cook County, Illinois. Item number 2 is an ordinance of the Village of Alsip approving Class 6B assessment status for the real estate located at 5859 West 117th Place, pin 24-20-404-003-0000, and pin 24-20-404-004-0000, and the Village of Alsip, Cook County, Illinois.
Thanks, Trustee. Adam, could you come up for a minute, just so we can, I want to explain everybody which property was which here. You can take that mic right there if you like. So first, trustees, item number 1, the address being 4134 127th Street. If you're not familiar with that, that's the expanded address to Whittingham Meats. Whittingham is increasing the size of their store, and he purchased half of Critchett Towing on the west side of the building over there. And while we certainly want to support our local businesses, Adam, one thing I did come across, and Roger brought this to my attention before, but I spent half a day working on it the other day. We can certainly focus on approving a 6B, to make this inclusive of Mr. Whittingham's business, but more importantly, Critchett Towing is actually unincorporated Cook County. And when I did a map search going down 127th Street, there's a few properties like that. Not a lot, but there's a couple of other properties like that as well, too. And I found that so weird that back in the day, whoever and whenever that happened and stuff, and too, that those were kind of like cut out like in a way and stuff, and too. So it was interesting. I pulled up everybody's tax bills, and certainly the village, not the village proper like here, but obviously our other services like park districts and all of them, they were all represented in there, but not the village itself. So I pointed that out to our attorney, Vince Kankar. Vince is working on it right now, and I sent him over all the information. Have you to talk, did he call you like today at all?
We did not get to talk to each other today.
Okay. We just had this conversation like Thursday and Friday last week. So he is working on this because he obviously sent over what we're looking at here today. He's like, oh, this is fine. And we got the other one you and I kept talking about here on 117th Street, too. But this probably is going to end up going in front of our plan commission, so we're going to have to keep moving on this. I don't want to slow Mr. Whittingham's progress over there, but he's going to understand that this has to be, we're going to have to annex that property, in other words, to make this happen. Because we can't approve something that's not ours, like that kind of thing yet, too. So what are your thoughts on it? What do you know about it?
You know, in regards, I'm on, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
To that property, you know, obviously from a village standpoint, you'd like it incorporated because you're offering an incentive for new construction. So the other option is to leave it unincorporated and allow our client to apply at the county also for that, where the home was before.
Right. I think the only problem I would have with it is certainly, you know, we don't there's no prejudice when it comes to the support of our police and fire and everything else. And if our services are being utilized at that location, we certainly should be represented in that capacity then too, as far as taxes being paid to the village, not the county.
The other side, too, is if the ultimate new building ends up straddling the property line, then you get a real hodgepodge mess.
Well,
on your
that too,
hands.
right. And right now, because the two properties, he's only getting half the Critchett-Towing, the other is still in unincorporated Cook County, and I'm sure if we annex this, everything's coming in on that property, and probably both parcels and stuff then too, you know, so.
Is the intent to combine the pins?
Yes.
Okay, so, I don't understand why it would have to go to planning and zoning, if it's a matter of a,
Well, because,
For a few other things besides, they're looking for easement,
oh,
a
okay.
reduction in easement, and some of the green space. So either way, they're going to have to go before planning and zoning, along with the not separating the pins, condensing the pins.
Right.
Into
Yeah.
one pin.
Do you need a subdivision on the first one so that it can be combined into the second one?
Actually, they're already separated. There's
Oh,
two
okay.
pins there.
so we can make this happen pretty quick, and I did, Mr. Whittingham, he and I have talked about this months ago, but it's not necessarily my purview to intervene in his business as his attorney and so forth. So now that it has come to us, and we just got this paperwork about a week ago, so we were able to make this happen kind of quick to bring you in, Adam, and so forth then too with your firm. But more importantly is we need to do this right and get this property annexed very quickly. We can make this happen, and this won't slow us down too much or anything, but certainly it's in our attorney's hands right now, and that's just as of last Friday or Thursday is when we did this and stuff then too. I can, did anybody, Roger, yourself or Adam, did anybody talk to Mr. Whittingham about this already?
I have not. I've just talked to his general contractor and a few of the other employees, but I have not talked to Mr. Whitney.
All right, I'll talk to him tomorrow, or you and I can talk to him tomorrow or something then too. And just let him know that we will expedite this as quick as we can. We don't want to hold up his job, but we have to make the, and again, I've never been that guy or that person to, your reasoning was fine for what you just said, but if we're the ones that are going to support this, and you can certainly go through the county and do the same thing, but if it's an extension of what's already there, we should be at the table with this and stuff then too.
Mayor, at the end of the day, it behooves our client to be annexed in because of inspections,
Okay,
permitting. Otherwise, he'd have to get permitted at the county level for that parcel separately.
gotcha.
That would be back to a major mess.
A lot of bureaucracy with that, understood. Okay. Adam, on the second parcel here, Roger brought to my attention this afternoon, Pinta's Granite is out of there, correct? He's no longer there?
That is correct.
And this property at 5859 117th Place is what, a restoration company?
Actually, the owner's here this evening,
Okay.
John
Okay.
Gertler.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, they're interested, obviously, with the 6B for the 30,000 square foot building.
Okay.
Many of you probably are familiar with the building. It needs a lot of TLC, and obviously, what we wanted to be able to present you this evening, obviously, the capital improvements that are intended for the property also. for
Okay.
this project. You want to go ahead, Jeff?
Yeah, thank you for giving me time today.
Sure.
But, yeah, if any of you have driven by that building over the years, Roger, I'm sure you've been there. It was certainly the eyesore of the neighborhood. And we've cleaned up the outside, already removed some dead trees or, on the way of dying, and plan on renovating the entire property. So we're putting significant improvements, capital into that. And to help offset that, we're looking for the Class B. But it is a restoration company, so we do property damage restoration. Primarily focus on commercial work. We also do a fair amount of residential work as well.
How many, I'm just looking at the application just now, but how many jobs do you bring in, something like that?
I know we saved one job from the transition from Pinta, and we just made a hire this week, and we plan on growing, and that's part of acquiring this property, having the room to grow, and we continue to make that progress. So depending on the timeline, we'll be making anywhere from, I would say, 3 to 5 hires a year as we grow.
Okay.
It'll probably keep up for several years before possibly tapering off, but it's tough to predict the future as well.
Okay. And as you said, I know that's been kind of a difficult building. We had a 6B out there before that obviously died, but I appreciate your investment coming back in to keep that property alive for us and stuff then too. So, Board, anybody have any questions? No? Okay. Then we'll put that to we'll put this on our board agenda next week, asking for approval from the board for that. In the meantime, Adam, I'll speak with Rick Whittingham tomorrow about the other, and we'll try and get this annexation discussion happening right away and stuff then too. Okay. And it sounded like Vince sounded pretty positive. He thought we can have it. We can turn as quick as we can. Because he's already leveled the other property and stuff then too, so we got to keep this thing moving. But thanks for coming in tonight, gentlemen, both of you. And then, Adam, I'll talk back with you. I'll talk to you soon then, too. Okay. Could you do me a favor, too, please? The clerk always just logs who speaks to us. Could you just sign in, please, at that sheet right here? And then next we'll go to Joe, I saw you sitting there. Which business were you with?
This is a special use permit application for 5959 West 115th Street.
Oh, I have it right here. Thank you, sir.
It's under planning and zoning.
So this would be under planning and zoning. Which trustee is that?
Either McLaughlin or Navarro-Esparza.
Kelly, you want to introduce the next person, please?
Sure. Under planning and zoning and licenses, item 2, discussion of case number 202201, SU 100 for I-2 industrial and I-2 industrial special use for the operation of a landscaping business for the property located at 5959 West 115th Street, Alsip, Illinois 60803. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on January 5th, 2022, with a vote of 6-1 in favor of.
Yeah, I apologize. I just noticed that you're a landscaper here yet, too, so I apologize. May I get your mask on? I didn't notice you right away. I know this went in front of Planning and Zoning, as Trustee Navarro-Esparza just said. It was approved 6-0 in favor of rezoning the property where your business is at. You're right next door to Granger over on 159th in Austin, right? Yeah. 115th, I'm sorry, in Austin.
I say we didn't grow that big.
No, I'm looking at the number here instead. I know it's all fenced in, and obviously it wasn't zoned correctly when you first had your business there. I'd just speak for myself. I'm glad that obviously we identified the problem. We'll make this right. Roger, you have any questions or any other issues with it or anything?
I have no issues with it, to move forward with it. There is an ordinance ready to be ratified next week if the board is willing.
Okay. How's the other tenants over there, too? I mean, does Walsh Towing still renting behind you? Are they still putting cars in behind you there and stuff? They're out of there, Chief? They moved out? Good, okay.
Your Honor, my name is Bill Cohn. I'm an attorney for the owner of the property.
Okay.
I'm here accompanying Mr. Barajas tonight.
Okay.
And the owner acquired the building last summer from Maury Electric, Maury Instrument, I apologize. And they inherited this landscape tenant and the Walsh Towing tenant. And my client tells me that originally Walsh was contemplating moving out by the end of December, and I had told Mr. Burley that. I did speak to my client today about it, and he said they are not out yet, so I want to make that clear so we're not misleading anybody. And I think it's still their intention to move out, but as of today, they are not out.
Okay. Okay. That's fine. Board, did anybody have any questions? You're doing a great job maintaining our properties here. Thank you very much. You know, I mean, the landscape, you're on what, your second season with us here so far?
Yeah, but
Okay. Okay. No, you know what we'll do then, gentlemen, is certainly, tonight's just a committee meeting, but we'll put this on the board agenda for next week, asking for approval, and it doesn't sound like there's a problem here of any type, and we look forward to helping you have that rezoned and carry on with your business and so forth then, too, okay?
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thanks for your patience, okay? I want to get back down, well, okay, we'll get back to our agenda. We'll go to the clerk's report.
The presentation of the January 17, 2022 board meeting minutes and presentation of the December 2021 motor fuel tax allotment in the amount of $71,684.71. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. We had the public forum. I know, Ms. Bronowski, Jeff, did you want to talk? Okay. Don, do me a favor, because you always record. Can you come up by that mic, please? Or Roger, can you hand her a mic? Thanks. Okay.
Hi.
I don't think it's on, Roger. Sorry, Donna, 1 second. Oh, there you go. You got to kind of talk into it. Yeah.
Here?
Yep.
Got it. Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
I just wanted to bring this to the village attention. I've talked to some seniors about it, and no one's ever heard or had anything like this. And then one of them said, well, you know, why don't you go to the village meeting and ask? And I thought that was great. It's about, and I get one of these about 2 times a month, maybe 3. It's a reminder about my water line. Is there something I don't know about the water lines that they're going to collapse?
I'm not familiar with it. Danny, are you guys putting anything out on
I
that?
can give you this, or give it to Roger, maybe? Or
Sales pitch for insurance.
Oh.
Or, you know, your utilities being underground.
Right.
Oh.
Right. And I was actually thinking about doing it. It's only $3 and I think 79 cents a month. And I was talking to some of the seniors, and they never heard of anything like that.
You know what, Donna? I get those all the time. I usually get them from Nicor Home Solutions all the time. Is that who that's from, Dan?
No.
Oh.
No. This is from the plan administrator.
Yeah.
In Northbrook.
Yeah, no, it's a generic company. There are companies out there, Ms. Romanowski, that I get them all the time. I usually get one from Nicor Home Solutions. And yes, some can be beneficial. You know, like, let's just say hypothetically you pay $8 a month into a program like that. And in the event, let's say a water line snaps because of your tree roots that wrapped around or your sanitary sewer, you're buying insurance is what you're doing to do that and stuff then too. So I don't want to speak for those companies, but the only one I would ever stand behind would be a more reputable name like Nicor or somebody like that. That's all, you know.
Okay, so something like, in our sewer system around the property is, where I live is pretty, it's
Absolutely.
not going to collapse.
Gentlemen, we're not having any problems over where Donna lives on Lawler Street there?
The sewers, no, nothing.
Okay.
So I have nothing to worry about the sewers collapsing or anything. Okay, that's why I was here. Thank you so very, very
Okay.
much.
Sorry to make you sit through those presentations. You know, try and get through it. Thanks much for coming out, Donna.
Thank you.
Next, we had the Finance and IT report. Trustee McLaughlin.
Okay, under Finance, first I have a list of payroll and accounts payable for approval next week. Next will be a request for a resolution approving the declaration and disbursement of surplus money in TIF District 1. This is the $100,000 that we've been dispersing every year, and I think this is is this payment 3 or payment 4?
This is payment 4.
Payment 4, okay. So we have 2 more to go after this one. Next, a resolution designated certain officers as principal signers and traders for the Illinois funds account held by the Village of Alsip, Cook County, Illinois. Basically what this is for is to remove Kent and former Mayor Kitching from the signatories and get those updated with the current mayor and the current finance director. Next, we have a request for approval of a Comcast settlement for a franchise fee underpayments in the amount of $12,794.69. And this is a result of that as of our contract that we had signed a while ago. And was there something on here, Joyce, you wanted to add, or?
No. I do want to say that Phase 1 of the telephone system starts Monday, which is all behind-the-scenes networking stuff that starts, so that has started.
Okay, and then, again, we had a good meeting about a week and a half ago with our JRB, our Joint Review Board meetings. We had all the, some of the taxing bodies were here, and again, we talked about, as Trustee McLaurin just said, what the surplus that we offer back to the taxing bodies based on the TIF 1 district. That was the one that was at 127th Street in Deer Park, and like you said, the other is just some paperwork cleanup that we need to do. And Joyce said there's some new rules that said it needed board approval. It seemed like that'd just be an administrative task, you know, just fixing the names, but you're saying new rules, was that GFOA stuff, or who made that rule?
This is Illinois funds requiring that we have minutes that show that it was approved.
Okay.
That somebody can't just say. I think it all has to do with the crackdown on the banking industry
Legislatively.
itself.
Okay.
Yeah, well, otherwise anybody can just show up and say, yeah, I was authorized to be on this account now.
Exactly, right. So, no, we appreciate Joyce and her team caught that, so we'll get that straightened out. And anything else, Trustee?
Yes, I apologize, this is not on the agenda, but in discussion with the other board members, there's a lot of confusion and/or unsettlement with the Laserfiche process as it's going right now. One of the things is, like, in particular, I think we're going a little too quick, just based on the feedback. It's not feeling like everything is fully understood in terms of the expectations from the board and in terms of what we're seeing and what the procedures are supposed to be. Just kind of, you know, things thrown at people and approve or don't approve, but what the correct process is when we have questions, what the procedure should be, who we should be reaching out to, what the general rules are. And there's also a request for desktop version of the software, because it becomes quite cumbersome approving vast numbers of invoices on a phone.
We have desktop. I mean, that shouldn't be a problem at all to provide that link so you can do it from any desktop.
We did learn a couple of things recently when we were all had a discussion a week or two ago, that when you're, and how did that go again? When we approve invoices on, you know, on whatever target or tablet that you're using, it's not automating a check from, we don't have that type of software. We're still manually, we still have our accounts payable person will know if it's somebody, because my, Becky had just, she inserted the wrong word in something like that, and it came off looking incorrect, but it would have been caught because it's assigned a vendor number. The vendor number, accounts payable would have caught. I think the other side of it, too, is if and when you have questions, trustees, on like an invoice that you might have come across, I think where everybody got hung up on was, and I talked to Trustee Navas-Barza about a week ago, she got caught between conversations. And let's say if somebody objected to a bill, what happens is you have to then, the process has to start over again, Joyce? Okay.
Once you hit the reject button, we have to start all over again.
Okay.
If you have a question, we welcome emails. You do not have to hit reject or approve. It is not required. You can let it sit in your queue. It'll come back again tomorrow morning, and it'll remind you that it's sitting in your queue. But if you have just a question, send an email. That's the objective, to try to get more communication with the board.
Well, in regards to that, it was that when I went to go approve the invoice, since I received it, there was content written in the question box. So I let it sit there for a day or two, and nothing happened. So I did feel that those questions should have been answered.
No one has access to that box.
Well, I don't know that. So that's why if we're integrating a system, as a board, our job is just to go in, review, and approve. And so nothing went forward, and I rejected it. And I received an email on a Friday evening, 4 o'clock, kind of, I guess, scolding me for rejecting the invoice and that assuming that I wrote those questions. So I think that also communication, does need to happen, but also some of the processes are not clear in regards to if we do have questions, like is there another button that can be added where, submit for questions and so forth like that, or if not, just bring them here if it's easier for us to review and when we're all together to bring up those questions.
So
you don't want to use email? I'm just asking.
Well, I mean, the purpose of Laserfiche, I thought, was to facilitate the dialogue in regards to approvals, but it seems that it isn't. So I'm more solution-oriented as well. Like, I didn't appreciate that email where, as also I put in that email was, well, as a trustee, I thought I also have the right not to sign off on invoices I didn't agree with.
You do have a right to do that. The question that was asked in there was a question.
Exactly, and it wasn't answered when I saw it again the day after and so forth. So if no one is reviewing that system, then what can be done to improve that process as well? Because, I'm a trustee, but I also have other commitments as well where I'm not looking at that system on, every hour of the day waiting to see if someone responded or got back to me on that as well. So I think just ironing out some of what are the expectations, and also if there's, like I'm suggesting, if there's a feature that can be added where if you do have a question, if a button can be incorporated in some way.
This is the $50 spark plug fix. It's not a full-blown system. It is, the intention is not to be a full-blown system. We have a full-blown system that will come in the new financial software, which, by the way, we did our first demo on. So this is intended to get us in an electronic format.
I understand that.
And off paper, which is very antiquated, and has been mentioned to me several times, not by just our auditors, but by others. So I will certainly ask if we can insert that button. I'm not sure how the communication would work, because we are going to be communicating within Laserfiche. It's going to come to you in an email. The response will come to you in an email. It's not going to come flashing back up on that work process.
I know, but there's a field there that says if you submit questions and so forth, so it's the assumption that someone's also reviewing if someone writes content in that box. So,
okay, so bear with me. That is in a workflow process with no access to anyone, none of the department heads.
Well, we should understand now, because, we're here discussing it now. So,
and I say that's all part of the point of bringing it up tonight, is so we can get all this out there and fully understand who sees what.
Not only that, but I'm sorry, but have you ever resolved an issue via email?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I find when I communicate strictly by email to somebody, it takes months to figure things out, as opposed to the dialogue we're having today. So if we were to go back and forth with this Q&A via email, it's going to be a really long train on this thing.
So,
I completely agree with Trustee Dalzella saying, everybody on the board does have full-time jobs, and so we're squeezing the approval in, whether it be at night or on lunch breaks, and we don't necessarily have time to read and respond to emails during the day. So it's potentially something happening at night, and then we can't read your response again until the next night. And to me, it is drawing things out much longer than having the paper signing of the copies.
And when we sign the
Pull them
papers,
out, talk about them.
we've got the different department directors where we can ask a question. I know myself, I didn't realize that when we reject something, it's start from scratch for the person who did the data entry. It was never communicated, certainly not to me.
Not to me either.
And then there was one instance where I did a fire department invoice. It was for a couple $100,000, and it was XYZ. I didn't know what it was for, and there was nothing in the invoice that I could see That gave me a hint. Now, I should have called up the fire chief and said, what is this? I didn't do that, because I thought it would be just a matter of, based on the notes that I put in, if you communicated, and away we go. Like you say, it's not that sophisticated of a system. But,
It isn't.
you know, I didn't know that there was a hyperlink. I saw the invoice, I'm operating from a screen this big, I'm old, and it wasn't beneficial. So after I hit the hyperlink, then I saw the expanded thing, I saw multiple pages, and it answered some of my questions that I had had. But even that isn't intuitive, because now it expands out, and then I have to close back up, and then open this thing back up, where I think the trustee is talking about, maybe on the desktop would be easier, more realistic.
And that's not a problem, we have that.
Right. So I know this is a brand-new system, and we expected some bumps in the road. We've hit a few. And
We have, and I apologize because I've been focused more on the back end of this and how things are processed.
No.
And
For most of the invoices, it's been great.
And for your end of it, it was more the simplest part as opposed to what the back end was. So that's why my focus has been on the back end. I understand your concerns, and I apologize, Catalina. When I looked at the report, it looked like it was you that rejected the invoice, and it wasn't, and I apologize.
I mean, I rejected it, but I didn't write those questions. So, I mean, it was, in essence, assuming that I did, and then explaining that there was, like, now I had to start over from scratch, and I'm like, whoa, like, all I understood was, like, our role was to approve and go in there. So I felt that, like Trustee McLaughlin has also mentioned, communicating what the next steps were and so forth like that, you know, in regards to this is the process and procedures and so forth, and we didn't get that. We're just like, here's the system, let's upload it, and let's roll with it.
And I apologize. That's a failure on my part.
So in other words, and again, I've learned a few things myself on this recently as well, too. And much to what the trustees are saying, where I might be here during the day, and it's easy enough for me to kind of go through, or I can get people, as Trustee Dalzell just said, you might have a question with fire or the other department heads. You guys go home at 4 o'clock, and certainly I'm not going to bother you at 7 o'clock to ask you a question about things if I didn't have to. Let me ask you, Trustee, you've got this at your where you work during the day. How do you resolve issues like if you see an invoice that you disagree with? What do you do over there?
We reject them.
Huh?
We'll send them back to,
But they have to. But then the same thing has to happen. You have to. Whoever the originator was has to re-download that and start the process again. I just want to make sure we're not missing anything on our side here.
and then I'm not sure the exact details on that side of it, strictly because ours is a little more sophisticated.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But it's probably the same difference is what I'm getting at, though, too, is if it's rejected, it has to go back to the originator, and the whole process starts over again. Not the end of the world.
It's not a whole process. I mean, the approval would start over again, but you wouldn't have to re-enter everything.
Yeah, yes, you do.
Yeah,
No, I'm saying the system that I work with at work.
Okay. Yes, right.
It's hanging out there in
Yeah.
pending status.
Right.
You don't have
If
to
it's
go
rejected,
log.
I get information about why it was rejected, and either I elaborate on it, or I attach the correct invoice to it, or I change the dollar amount because I didn't type it in correctly.
Yeah, we don't have a database on this per se.
Right.
So, yeah, so it starts over again.
Right.
And one other thing, too, Joyce, just so I understand correctly, too, is I approved one, and I'll tell you, let's say it was for a floral arrangement recently, and we put a cap on those, and it went a couple bucks over the cap, and I want the person who ordered them to understand we treat everybody equally. I want to respect that cap. I approved it because we had already bought the floral arrangement. I couldn't stop it.
Yep.
But I also but I put remarks in there. But I don't think
That's fine.
But does the person see my remarks?
No.
So that mistake will happen again.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Because I physically talked to the person anyway, But yeah, I approved it, but I put some remarks in there. Please, let's respect the cap here and stuff then too.
When you reject the invoice, whatever you type in the notes goes in that email back to the person that it was rejected to. So that's the only time that communication occurs, is on a rejection.
All right.
Rejected to,
Whose ever email is in that form, in the submittal, that's who it goes back to. So those are the people that are going to get those comments when you hit reject. It is, I love the fact that you want to communicate. I like that part. I want to facilitate this as much as possible because I think it's really good. But we have a limited system. And so I'll talk to Brian. I'll see what we can do and see if we can come up with a method to communicate.
All right.
Let me see what we can do.
All right.
And I think one more thing is, in terms of the routing of the invoices, it would make everybody's life easier if we make sure that the primary or the initial signature is the chairman of the committee.
We already routed all that. I fixed all that about 2 weeks ago.
You're seeing every single invoice that goes through.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, I'm providing feedback from others that have complained that they're getting invoices that are related to committees that are not theirs.
That's all been changed.
Like 2 weeks ago, I drafted Brian a schedule on who gets what,
Yep.
and Brian programmed that accordingly. Yep.
So that's been corrected. So
Yes.
from now on, I'm going to get invoices from the department I chair,
That's
always.
correct. Always.
Yeah,
Unless
no.
somebody's gone and we have to put your name in.
No, I,
That's
but
a
I still
different
get,
story.
I still get invoices from you.
Yes, that's right, because you're on the
Because you're on
finance
finance.
committee.
but,
You're the chair.
no, trustee, what I
We
did
still need
was,
to-
when I put that new schedule together, I know, I'll send all you folks a schedule what I did. Well, the only one was funny was the finance. So trustee, I went to you as the first committee and let trustee McLaurin sign off as the chair. And the finance, that's all.
Because we didn't have another chair, we had one chair.
Right. So that's the only one that might have seemed flimsy, but everything else is accordingly and stuff into, so.
I don't understand.
Well, in other words, if I sent her, if we sent all the finance bills to her, then, and then the final signature went to the finance chair, who am I sending that to? That's what I'm saying, I got stuck. So I went to the committee and then back to the chair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
So, no, but Brian, I gave Brian the whole schedule, and he redid the whole deal. All right, well, good. All right, we're all set with that. Thank you. And then fire committee,
Trustee Dizelle?
No report, Mayor.
thank you. Chief, give me 1 second before we do your report. I got to blow my nose. One second real quick. We're getting old, when you gotta be careful not to blow your nose too hard and blow out your drum or something, you know, that kind of thing, so. Thank you. So we'll go to the police and traffic safety report. Trustee Dalzell.
On the agenda for this evening is license plate recognition cameras. Project has capital funds budgeted for the Pulaski area this year. Finance director would rather complete a purchase than do a 5-year lease, so an RFP has been drafted and is going out today.
Which
Do
today
you want to
was that?
elaborate?
This has been an ongoing project for a couple months now. I met with Joyce a couple times about purchase versus lease. They'd rather do a lease. We have money allocated for it, so Leon did a great job putting together an RFP for us, and that went out actually today. So we'll have some updates for you guys in the next couple of weeks, once we kind of know where we stand with that.
And Chief, like you said, just as a reminder, it's in here too, but we're only focused on Pulaski at this time, right?
Yes, the plan was to start in stages, starting with the Pulaski corridor and working our way westward.
Okay.
All right, number 2, the Illinois Law Enforcement Accreditation Program, ILEAP. Accreditation is an ongoing process where agencies develop policy and procedure against the established criteria. They have compliance within those criteria verified by an independent and authoritative body, which in this case is the Illinois Law Enforcement Accreditation Council. They have completed the process, review, and passed the inspection. The police department now expects to be awarded accreditation status within the next month. Kudos to Lieutenant Emick, who spent a significant amount of time overseeing the project and its successful conclusion. Anything further, Chief?
No, this is one of our goals for this year, or this past year that we've been working on. It was pretty time-intensive, especially for Lieutenant Emick. I guess that's what happens when you ask for a promotion. But she did a great job organizing that whole thing, and we look forward actually to working with them in the future, and she's going to probably end up being an assessor for them going forward. So it was a great overall accomplishment for the department.
Okay. And then, Chief, I'm going to have you read number 3, because I don't want to mess up Alexandra's name.
Yeah. I just refer to her Alexandra M.
Okay, all right, well, that'll work.
So we're going to be bringing in Alexandra as an intern with the Alsip Police Department. She's an Alsip resident, a graduate of Roosevelt University with a bachelor's in psychology. She has a concentration in forensics and a minor in sociology. Alexandra is currently working at a behavior hospital in a nearby community, and will be working on her master's degree starting this fall. She will be working with our crisis intervention officers and will help develop resources and contacts for families that are in crisis, and will explore the concept of having a department social worker on staff so that we could possibly reduce our repeated calls for crisis intervention, thereby keeping officers available for other calls or proactive enforcement while providing a valuable resource for our residents in need. This is the current trend in law enforcement. Some of the northern suburbs, it's been around for actually quite a few years. It's starting to make its way this way, and we were fortunate enough to have contact with her, actually through Laserfeed. She sent us, I think. So we brought her in, we sat her down, and we're going to kind of take this thing one step at a time and see what she can develop for a resource for our department. Maybe you may be seeing something for her next budget year. So.
Okay. Anything else, Chief?
I have one last thing, was not on the agenda, but it's we're doing a safety presentation / giveaway. We were contacted by Representative Hurley's office looking for a spot to hold an event. So on Saturday, February 19th, Representative Fran Hurley and Senator Cunningham are going to be here with our couple of our officers and community service officers to do a gun lock giveaway, promoting gun safety and awareness. They're also going to be doing fingerprinting for child identification and some looks like concealed carry and FOID applications. So that's on February 19th from 10:30 to noon in the Village Hall. That's it.
That's all we have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again, Chief. I know our meeting was cut short this morning, but again, I appreciate the escort last week. Chief had one of our CSOs help out with the procession for Alsip President David Anglin, who was a U.S. soldier who died at Fort Hood, Texas, and his body was brought back home. And last week, the Patriot Guard met David's airplane out at the Midway Airport, and they were at Curly's funeral home. I was out there at the wake. I think that was Thursday night, and or Wednesday night. I'm sorry, the funeral was Thursday, and we escorted them to St. Albert the Great over in Burbank, and his family was very appreciative, Chief. So they're a big thank you for doing. Patriot Guard as well too came up. They had all the in fact, his unit flew in from Fort Hood, Texas. He had about 12 soldiers that came in to help David put Dave to rest here in the. He went to Lincoln Cemetery out in Elwood, Illinois, I believe, and so forth. So, but thank you for the support on that, and certainly we appreciate David's service to our country. 31 years old, and he was a soldier for 9 years, Staff Sergeant at the U.S. Army. Next. We had the Public Work and Boat Launch Report Committee.
That would be me. Request and approval to go out to bid for parkway tree removals. We're looking to remove approximately 90 trees, which will include removal and stump grinding. And then request for approval to post for the hiring of a part-time maintenance employee in Public Works, and this is to replace the employee that recently left.
And Mayor, if I could, just wanted to bring attention to the board. Last snowstorm we had, one of our larger snow plows broke down. It essentially broke in half, actually.
This broke down.
Yeah, we reviewed it, inspected it, spoke with a few vendors. Due to the age of the plow and the model of it, it was deemed that it could not be fixed because of parts not being available, or whatever parts could be available wouldn't be for another 6 months. So basically, I'm looking to do an emergency purchase here for a new plow, looking for a consensus from the board. It's something we have to have, especially the way winter's been going. Approximate cost is $18,400 for this new plow. I will say that the one that broke down, we've had maintenance issues with it for quite some time. The style of that plow does not meet our current specifications. It's given us trouble for many years now, and this was just the final straw that broke the back. So if I can get a consensus, I'd like to
So
get this
Mike and I
ordered.
met on this Friday, and he explained the same thing to me, and basically all the other plows are all...
They're all chain hooks.
Chain hung.
This one was a surface mount.
Exactly.
So it hooks directly to the front of the truck. It also creates a great stress on the truck, the way that this design is done, whereas a chain hook, it hangs off the frame of the vehicle and reduces the stress, and it's actually more durable on the street.
Which is somewhat responsible for the damage on it. It's got the one that's on there now is got a great support system to it, but it doesn't have the give that the chain does and
Exactly.
stuff then too. So,
Yeah.
but it's an $18,000 purchase, and certainly it's hanging off one of your 5-ton trucks, right? Off
Yeah,
one
it's
of
on
the
a
big truck.
5-ton, right.
So certainly, especially in this environment, Mike, how long to get that replaced?
About 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
So the clock starts as soon as we say yes.
Yes.
You need it Wednesday, right?
Yes. I will have every available piece of equipment out on the street Wednesday and Thursday, minus that truck.
You're going on vacation, though. It's not going to do
I'm
anything.
not going on vacation. I wish.
Yeah. So, Clerk, can you get a consensus vote, please, from everybody for Mike's purchase of an $18,000 snowplow for a 5-ton dump truck?
Trustee Dazal?
Did you try to do super glue?
Yeah.
We tried
Duct tape, too.
Gorilla glue?
Yes.
Trustee McGawhorn?
Yes.
Trustee Navas-Barza?
Yes.
Trustee Peretta?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. All right, Mike.
Thank you.
Let's get that taken care of tomorrow.
Yes,
then.
thank you.
Okay, sure. Next, we have the sewer and water report. Trustee Navas-Barza.
Thank you. I have a request for the approval to post and fill an open full-time operator 2 driver laborer position within the water department. And that's all I have this evening.
Danny, just to confirm, you got a vacancy at that spot right now? And next, we had Dan, how are we doing with the water main repairs? You just about done?
The water main,
Replacement, I meant.
all of the water main is installed, all the old water main has been disconnected, all of the construction is done, basically all we have is restoration work. So this week we're doing some cleanup and, getting everything as put back together as we can until, the weather breaks and we can do full restoration work.
Okay. Everything been tested, Dan? Everything's working okay?
Correct.
Excellent. Okay. I went by there today. I saw what you were telling me. We're actually salvaging some of the old fire hydrants and then maybe keeping them for parts and all that kind of thing. So, okay. Thank you. Next, we have the Building and Health Committee. Trustee Prada.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a request to approve Sertoma Center's the Super Sale fundraiser to be held on Saturday, April 2nd from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, April 3rd, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. The event will be held at their facility located at 4100 West 127th Street. And just a little bit of a background of Sertoma. Sertoma Center provides support services for 1,700 individuals with developmental, physical, and emotional disabilities and/or mental illness. The Super Sale is designed to be a discount shopping experience open to the public. They will be primarily selling donated merchandise from McCormick Place's Inspired Home Show, previously referred to as the Housewares Trade Show. All proceeds go to the Sertoma Center and their support programs. Sertoma would greatly appreciate your support, and I hope everyone can be there. Next on the agenda, I have a request for discussion recommending an amendment to the village building permit and licensing fees. This ordinance hasn't been touched since 2005. I believe all the trustees here have gotten a list of proposed adjustments to the licensing fees. They are very modest. We are within the ballpark of other villages. We are definitely not out of the ballpark on some of these proposals. For example, coin-operated machines, a washer and dryer license is currently $10. Looking to adjust that to $12. So it's very nominal, just for example. So I think this really needs to be addressed, and it's been quite some time, almost 17 years, actually.
Exactly. And I drafted the template, trustees, that you have in front of you. Roger, you got a copy of that over there, too? Okay. So Roger and I originally had went through this, and just as a point of discussion, we're only talking about licensing fees at this time, not permit fees. We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. But this is basically just for licenses that are required within our village. And I gave 4 examples at just neighboring communities of Tinley Park, Chicago Ridge, Oak Lawn, and Burbank, just in our locale and what other communities are doing at this time. Roger, if we can just quickly kind of go through each category. The first one at the top is basically is based on square footage of buildings, right? Be it restaurants, warehouses, wherever. And we didn't actually. And again, ladies and gentlemen, these are just numbers in front of you. There was no particular percentage or anything like that. We just want to know that we're being competitive to other communities around us, and we can certainly, we don't even have to do anything with it if you don't want, but we felt it was worthy of at least discussion and an adjustment if possible. So the first bracket, like I said, is based on size of buildings, based on square footage. The second column there under motels, and I gave just a quick example what you're looking at. It says right now, let's say in the first column, it says the first 100 rooms are $25 plus $15 for each room after. Correct, Raj? That's what we charge right now?
Correct.
So I just gave you a hypothetical on the left under here. I just gave you kind of a hypothetical on the left under motels where it says right now, let's say we've got a couple of small motels on Cicero Avenue. They might have 40 rooms there. So right now, he's paying $25 a year, right, Raj? Because he's inside the 100 window.
For the first 100, correct.
Yeah, so he pays $25 for a license fee on top of obviously his property taxes and so forth, but that's all he's paying per year. So
it's 25 total for the first 100?
Yeah.
For the first 100, yes.
Oh, wow, okay.
So
I was reading it as 25 each for the first, no?
No, that's why I want to give that example. So let's say in that same category, let's say in this same category, when you go into Tinley Park, the first room is $40. Every room after that's $5. In Chicago Ridge, the first room is $250, and every room after that's $55. In Oak Lawn, it's basically the same, it's a little bit less. It's, the first room is $140, $55 every room after. And finally, in Burbank, your first room is $120, and every room after that's $52. So if we were to make an adjustment, and just as a suggestion even here, propose if you took those same 40 rooms and you made the first room comparable to what you're seeing in these other communities, let's say similar to what Burbank did, you're going $125 for the first room and $50 for every room after that, because that was kind of the norm in all these other rooms, or other communities, I'm sorry. You can make that adjustment if you wish, because right now, like I said, that particular motel, whichever motel it is, with less than 100 rooms, is paying $25 for the whole year for a business license. And you're basically asking, let's just say if you took one situation, you're asking for an extra $100 for like a whole year. It's a one-time fee, correct? Yeah.
So I have a question. So if I understood correctly then, so this is business licensing, and then there's also talk of increasing permit fees.
Right.
That is correct.
So with the permit fee increase, is it to offset like some overhead costs associated with, sending inspectors out and so forth?
Correct. I'm also, with that, I'll be also asking for the inspectors to get a raise, because presently they have not had a raise since 2005. Presently, they're making $18.50 per inspection and $10.50 for every review that they do. What I will be asking for is $35 per inspection and $18.50 for each review.
Okay, and then when we have that discussion, you'll have like a similar table and so forth?
That's
correct.
I'm going to do that in about 2 weeks, Trustee.
Okay.
I didn't want to confuse the two conversations. I started to, and I no, too many numbers. Let's do one at a time.
So I understand, because I've had a conversation with you as well about the permit side, but then also, then with business licensing, what were the monies generated from the fees, the fee increases, what would that be allocated towards then? Because in essence, like the permit fees, in essence, to cover overhead and the wage increases and so forth.
Basically, the wage increases and overhead.
But with the business licensing, the increases, what is this projected revenue then going to be allocated for?
What would you do with the revenue?
Yeah.
Basically, it's still, and that's kind of when my summary to you folks, when I sent it out to everybody's, still this would go into your general fund. You don't necessarily have to earmark it for anything, but for the past 17 years, let's say as your labor costs have been increased, and we haven't done anything to offset that cost. So this can actually be there to help offset that cost. And you can't put a hard dollar number on it because, again, or even a percentage to say I can recoup this much. But every year, if you've got a workforce that's, let's say, increasing, let's just say overall, you're increasing, the salaries alone are going up maybe 2%, 2.5%. And then you've got others, you got healthcare and everything else, and we haven't done anything to offset the particular cost.
No, I understand, and the business is also, the cost of doing business is, they're there, right? So I wouldn't be opposed to the increases, but then the amount of the increase per category, I think, just needs to be looked at, since I'm just getting this sheet in front of me, just to think about what that would look like. And then also from the business community, maybe some conversation with some business owners to see what this would, what they feel about this as well. Given the pandemic and so forth like that. I'm just thinking out loud as I process all this.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's why we're here for committee. Much like, okay, so again, as you're going down these same columns, a home occupation business, we've talked about this in the past. Some of our neighbors and the other community, right now we're at $60 for that license. Oak Lawn and Chicago Ridge are both charging $75 for that same license. I wouldn't be opposed to matching that to just, again, meeting where the market's at. Automatic vending machines, right now the village is at $55, and the norm would be you got anywhere from we're at 55, let's say Burbank's at 60, Oak Lawn's at 65, and Chicago Ridge is at 75. So again, even if you moved it up $10 to be 65, it puts you right in the middle of the other communities. As Trustee Prada pointed out, when you get to the next column, coin-operated machines, washers and dryers. The village currently is at $10 each for those. Tinley Park's at $2.50 each, but then Chicago Ridge is the same at 10, Oak Lawn's at 10, and Burbank's at 12. Not everybody accounted, because I was on their websites, not everybody had a coin changers. We were at $10 to have one of those. Jukeboxes were kind of interesting. Alsip's jukebox fee, a license fee, was $50, but so was Tinley Park's. But then when you get out to the Ridge, it was $75. Oak Lawn was $215, and Burbank was $140 for that same license. Pool tables were pretty norm at about $50. Ours are at $50 now, and so is everybody else's. They're about $52. We don't have any cost on an automatic car wash. We don't have any automatic car washes in town, but other communities were charging $100 or $129 for that.
Is the one at BP an automatic car wash?
The one at BP at 127?
122nd, yeah.
127.
No, they turned it off.
No.
They don't use it anymore.
Oh.
And then under contractors, you can see under junk and scavenger contractors, currently the village was at $500. Both Tinley and Chicago Ridge were at $300, yet Oak Lawn was at almost $11, and Burbank was at $1,700 for that kind of service. General contractors, $150. Nobody else identified that on their websites. I'm sorry, they did, down below, right, under businesses, general contractors, we were at $150, everybody else was at about $100. And then on page 2.
I just have one question while we're in that area. Why wouldn't we apply a fee to say something like billboards?
I agree. That's why,
There's a separate ordinance for billboards.
Oh, I'm sorry, they are?
There's a separate ordinance for billboards.
So we are charging a fee for billboards. It's just not reflected on here.
It is not reflected on here because it's got its own separate ordinance, which is another ordinance that I will be looking at changing in the near future.
Raj, do we have, actually they combined them everywhere I've seen lately too. When you talk about ATM machines, you don't see ATMs, I mean you do. Do we charge a license fee for that?
Yes, we do. Our vendor's tag, yes.
Okay, what is that? Because I didn't see it in the ordinance.
No rate on it either.
I will definitely have that answer for you in the morning.
Okay.
Because all the banks have.
And trustees, the other stuff that you say with nothing next to it, were just things that we can consider, and should we want to order. One thing I've seen, and fortunately, well, good, better, and different, Roger, we don't have an ordinance that addresses board-up contractors, right?
Not that I recall, no.
Yet the fire department recommends them.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. We have a roster, like we do a tow truck company roster, but we don't have a license fee for them, though, either, right?
They would just go under a general contractor.
Right. Everyone else, on the obviously you can see the average business license for just about everything in town is $75. In our community, Tinley Park was roughly $50 for all their typical business licenses. The Ridge was at $100, and Oak Lawn at roughly $100, and then Burbank, everything was $73 over there to round those out. So certainly we didn't need to make a hard decision at a committee meeting tonight, but I want to get this conversation going. And again, this is the first conversation we're having with this yet, too. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them now, or if you want, we can talk during the week. Send me a note if you want, and so forth then, too, And we'll keep working on those. And then, as I was just saying, when it comes to permits, I'll be working on that over the next 2 weeks, and we'll talk about permit fees and inspection fees and things like that yet, too. There's just a lot here, and sometimes you put too many numbers in front of it. And actually, Trustee Dalzell, I appreciate you sent me a note today, and you were just asking me about how competitive we were, and you make a great point where Roger and I had sat and had everything in front of us, but it's easier when I lay it out this way, and everybody can see exactly how this plays out and stuff then, too. So, again, I wasn't looking for any kind of a decision this evening, folks. I just wanted to get the conversation going, and if you have any questions now, that's fine. If not, just let me know, and I'll get back with you. The next conversation, go ahead.
Sorry, we send out the renewals for all the contractor licensing in the beginning of March, so I respect the time for conversation, but we're going to need some time to redo the system if we end up approving different changes.
Okay.
So we can get the renewal sent out.
We should have some hammered out by mid-month, next month and stuff, too, if we have to adjust anything. The other part of the conversation, Board, I wanted to bring up was just, if anyone, we did get some dialogue back from the Illinois Gaming Board, Becky did, and basically, Illinois Gaming Board just said that they passed a new public act. It's Public Act number 102-689. Section 65 is based on fees. A non-home rule unit may not impose a fee for an operation of video gaming terminals in excess of $250. Obviously, if you weren't aware, home rule authorities can set that mark wherever they choose, and certainly in the interest of being fair to the establishment and their gaming operators. What I gave everybody in your packets was just an example of where those fees are at. We have had one or two businesses come in here and ask that we share those costs with the gaming operator, and that's what the state of Illinois just approved. And they do say in here as a reminder, the cost of any fee imposed under this act by a home rule unit of government will be shared equally between the terminal operator and the applicable licensed establishment. Licensed veterans establishments, truck stops, and so forth then too. It's not the position of the Illinois Gaming Board to determine how we want to allocate that split. If we decide to do anything at all, we can leave things the way they stand. Currently, the Village of Alsip charges $500 per video gaming terminal. That's it. That's all we charge at this time. Many other communities, and the examples that I gave, you saw a variety. I know a new one I just saw jump up here was Tinley Park. Tinley was actually at $600 per video gaming terminal. And then they put another $750 per video gaming terminal. They're going to build the operator now and stuff then too. Other communities like Orland Park was just, they're actually at $1,000 per video gaming terminal and another $1,000 for the operating license then too.
Is that $1,000 total for the operating license, or?
Pardon?
Does that $1,000 for the operating license cover all 6 machines, or is it individual times 6 machines?
We also limited the number of businesses that have these.
Right. And you had to have so much tenure even to get the gaming to begin with, and so you had to be established so long and all that. But in Orland's case, you could have up to 6 machines in your establishment, so there's $6,000 from the establishment, and then you're asking an additional $1,000 for the operator license, and they can share those costs. They have $7,000 all day, and they can decide how you're going to split that and stuff then too. Midlothian, $500 per video gaming terminal. Same thing that we're doing here. So, again, Melrose Park, they just did $1,000 per video gaming terminal, period. So again, that can be split between $500 to the establishment, $500 to the operator then too. So I just want to make everyone aware of this. Certainly it's nothing that we have to act on today or anything like that, but if the board wanted to even take our $500 that we're charging right now and split that in half, $250 to the establishment, $250 to the operator, you can do that as well too. Excuse me. But in the interest of being competitive with other communities, and always, the idea that it is it is by our choice to offer the privilege to these businesses to increase their business by allowing them to earn extra money through these machines. It's all good business at the end of the day. So, any questions on that right now? Roger, are you hearing anything back from these establishments on the video gaming fees or anything like that?
I have not heard anybody complain of it other than one business in town.
The usual one?
Fees. But I didn't,
I said the usual one?
yes, that usual one. Other than that, I have not heard anybody complain about the fee. Some say that it's lower than what they pay in other towns. They don't really complain about it.
Okay. I will tell you, Board, myself and Becky get calls all the time, and Roger knows. I'll get some of these video gaming companies call and say, yeah, listen, we're going to be setting up over here, and, gosh darn, we're really looking forward to meeting you real soon. I says, no, you're not. This is because we stopped it about 2 years ago, and we're not going to be opening up any more gaming cafes or anything like that. I mean, it's like, certainly you want to bring a great, viable business. That's what we're looking for. But, no, I just love... I know they have a business to work and stuff, but they climb right in that phone and they want to let you know they're on the way. I'm like, no, you're not. Hang on a second.
I mean, with the advent of this, I wouldn't be opposed to and splitting that between the business owner and the gaming company, give the business owners a little bit of relief, but I wouldn't be in favor of certainly reducing the fees.
Right.
I thought that was pretty fair what we did last time. And
absolutely, and I appreciate the board. I tell you, Trustee, when I was going through to look at some of these comps, when I'm looking at some of these other communities, I was not really in favor of that penny a push, and it's never been, legislatively, that's never been approved either. And I don't think it ever will be. That's just my thought, but I don't know how a government establishes something like this to help business and help communities and help taxpayers. Then all of a sudden the municipality can piggyback on that to make more money on the penny a push, but basically you're just going right back in the same pockets you were trying to help, that kind of thing too. So we'll see what happens with that. I explained to everyone a couple months ago in October, excuse me, when I was at the IML conference, how a lot of people were really big on this, and a lot of communities approved on October 31st prior to the deadline, but we're fine. I just want to make sure everybody's aware, and this way we can keep the conversation moving with that. Next, we had the I'm sorry, Trustee Pratt, anything else on your?
And that's all I have, Mayor.
Human Resource and Insurance, Trustee Murphy, Committee?
Trustee Parada?
That'll be me. Number one, the government will supply free COVID tests to all residents. There is one order per address, which includes 4 tests total. In order to receive, you must go to the covidtests.gov free at home COVID-19 test and register. That's kind of odd.
covidtest.gov.
There you go. Thank you, Trustee. The test will be sent directly to your home at no charge. And that's all I have.
So I'm assuming our HR manager, Charles Corrali, probably put that in. I actually did do this myself when this came out about a week or so ago, and they were delivered to my house last week. So just 4 tests.
Yeah, mine came within a matter of days after I went online.
Yeah. So I'm glad it works. Let's put it this way. You try it out, and it does work. I haven't had the need. I was at a doctor last week for a head cold. They do their own little thing there and stuff, but what you call it? Everybody, we're negative here anyway, folks. So we'll go to our special committee reports.
While we're still in Human Resources, Mayor, just a question. Are we now done with HR consulting?
Yes. You know what? I'll speak with Shanae. She did a wonderful job helping us out, but I'll let her know. We're good with that. I'll let her know we're done. Yeah.
Okay, because I actually do have another bill actually waiting for approval.
That was
right
probably
now,
just a wrap up for the tax season with the 1095Cs. There
Yes,
was a couple
it
of
was.
trips on that, but after that, we're done now. Yeah.
But I'll keep my mouth shut, but the board would like us to be done with that now.
Oh, sure.
I mean, because we're coming up on almost a year now.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that was something, that was a function that apparently HR, I thought they were familiar with and wasn't. And it took a couple of trips for her to help out with it and stuff here too, so. But I'll remind Sinead that thank you, and certainly if something special comes up, we can special case her.
I mean, that's it. If something really special comes up and there's something unique, I have no issue with them coming back to the board and saying, hey,
Yeah,
we need to employ her for something specific.
sure,
But in terms of an ongoing basis and routine job tasks.
right. All right. Next, we have the special committee reports, economic development, trustee Nava Esparza.
Excuse me. I just had a question in regards to next. I know that it was mentioned that we were going to receive an update in regards to any progress that they've made in regards to their economic development efforts.
I'm telling you, last week, I was kind of like under the weather all week. I was kind of limited schedule, and I had told you that I was going to get them. I'll remind them that we need a report from them.
It's been about, what, now 6 months since they were contracted?
He told us quarterly we were going to get reports from him, and we just signed on with them in October, so yeah, we should be getting a report from him.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. We did village properties already, and ordinance legislation's done, so it's just, and we did plan zoning and licenses already, so.
Well, we didn't do the whole thing. We jumped to
Sure.
number 2 and we didn't do number 1.
Oh,
So I have a presentation of a list of licenses dated January 11th, 2022 through January 8th of 2022. And under that topic, I would like to welcome Braids by Ashley, who are moving in at 12246 South Pulaski. We also have Christy Krillix, also moving at 12246 South Pulaski. Roger, are they sharing a storefront? Okay.
I've never been in there, but would they have like cubicles everywhere kind of thing?
Correct.
Okay. But they all buy individual licenses for what they do.
They each have their own individual office space. It used to be the doctor's office, so now what they did is put beauticians inside.
Okay.
We also have Kirby Cuts International going in at 12246 South Pulaski. And finally, Marcella's Bakery at 11941 through 43 South Pulaski.
They bought out Navarro's, right? Okay.
So I would just like to welcome all those new businesses to town, and that's all I have, Mayor.
Very good. So, before we wrap up here, Joyce, as far as Dude Solutions go, I'd really like to sit down and kind of collectively put all that together. I will tell you, Board, we sat through, I met with them, we did that remotely, and there is I think we have some valid interest in that. It's just a matter of, as Trustee Delzell and I were talking about before, too, and that's what we addressed last Thursday or Friday with them, was the integrating our GIS mapping with what we currently have and stuff, and too. So we'll have that discussion this week. Let's talk about that and put something together we can easily present to everybody here and stuff, then, too, okay? Did anybody have any presentations, petitions, or communications? How about, did anyone have any unfinished business?
But I don't understand. So is this going to be on the agenda for approval next week?
No. I want to bring it back to everybody and basically I want to present something that, let's just put it this way, I think there was some real validity there that we might have missed, and we talked to them last week about cost, and it's like, you take my cost out of there that I'm already paying for my GIS through Southborough mayors and managers, what have I got left, that kind of thing, because I really think and I didn't understand, because I missed a presentation ahead of time, but after I really had a chance to sit there and watch this, the problem that I think where we benefit from this, and we can have this discussion right now real quick, is populating that information. Let's just say we'll start with water department. When the water department fixes water mains on a particular block, they log that information, but for Danny's guys to access it, they physically have to come back to the office and go through records to try and attain that information, Dan, right? Okay, so as opposed to, and what I'm kind of looking at, trustees, is not so much what Dan knows or what might be in Dan's office, but succession. Can Danny actually have a new supervisor, or if we ever have a supervisor on site doing this, is it readily available? Can he access that? Does he know that we just replaced and the same line 10 feet away from that, 3 months ago, and that kind of thing yet, too? Is a redundant action to dig here if we just fixed it 3 feet away, that kind of thing? And it's more precise. Dan, why don't you give some other examples? I'm sorry, I left the print you gave me in the other room.
Yeah, so, like I was saying, with regards to, water main repairs, what my guys do is collect a lot of the information for each repair. It's put in a Laserfish form. It's saved in, Laserfish, but our guys don't have access to Laserfish on the street or looking at, history for a particular location. So when they're at a site, digging up or doing a repair, they don't have that history available to them. Where if we're using Dude Solutions, when we put that data into the system through Dude Solutions, it's also available to them through the same, web-based, access to look at history. They can see what's been done in that locale, for many years, and we can actually import the current data that we have, historical data that we have, so that it's available in that system and available to our guys on the street.
The way Dan's doing it right now
is going to import.
I'm sorry?
So Dude Solutions is going to import our present GIS data.
Correct. It's basically, they use the layers that,
right.
And that's just the mapping. But our current GIS doesn't, so the data, our guys go out and collect data on a water main repair and fill out all the information. I then have to take that out and export it from Laserfish, send it over to SSMMA for them to update our GIS system, and that's done maybe once, twice a year. So it's not readily available to the guys, on an updated basis.
Yeah. But with the GIS, with the Esri database, it's a SQL database that's underscored behind it. So I would think that through the SSM, the mayor's managers, that we would already have that information. I know the county provided us all that was in the very beginning. I know I implemented the original one that we had when I digitized all the Sidwells.
Right. But they don't use it as a SQL database. They use the shape files.
Right.
To build the map and all the different layers. So that's what they're importing from our current Esri system is those layers. You turn off, fire hydrants, valves, water mains, sewer lines, so that you can, look at just what you need.
Right, but when you do a shapefile, you don't maintain individual, your 100-foot segments of pipe, your T's, your valves. Those are contained in a shapefile, but the database behind it is the important part. That's the part that you can query.
Right.
So.
But then Dude Solutions is the one cleaning your data where they're geocoding and all that. Is that where they're doing that extra step for you? Or
what they're doing is, again, overlaying on that shapefile basically the records of all the work that we do.
In a more frequent
and
manner.
Like you said, in geocoding those records.
In a more frequent manner.
Exactly. Real time.
Versus SSMMA. I got all the letters there. It's on a 1 or 2 year, or once or twice a year, or it takes a bit longer.
Exactly. It's all a matter of me physically, collecting the data, putting it in a spreadsheet, and sending it off for them to then geocode.
And aside from just water main breaks and replacements, Dan was explaining to me as well too that, say for instance, it'll actually help you populate all the data where your oldest water mains are at. So even though we have an engineer that helps us with this, we're paying them tens of thousands of dollars to tell us where our oldest water mains are at and stuff, and you
it's
can
not-
actually bring up the data to tell you which one needs to go now, that kind of thing.
Exactly, and the other thing, the reason we're collecting the data on water main repairs is so that we can create heat maps as to say where our current issues at, and again, going backwards, we have that history all on paper, and we'd love to be able to put it in maps to analyze.
It just, my concern is that we keep on going to disparate systems. So, police department, fire department. Fire department uses pre-plans. Building department with all the different plans that they have, as-built, whatever plans are submitted. Did we ever modify our ordinance? No. So, one of the first things we need to do is that when somebody requests to build something, we have to get an electronic copy rather than things that are sitting inside the drawers for no one ever to see again. To sit there and do this, and I'm not going to take away, you guys know your job better than I ever will, or care to. But to me, a commonality. I use mapping all the time, and one of the big things that we use now in public safety is indoor mapping. So all the locations, the mall we've got, and schools, to use that for fire safety or for the police, this system, I don't know if it's beneficial or not, or if it'll just be for you guys and then left to the police department's court to figure out what they can use, fire department to use what they use, and again, 3 disparate systems that don't talk to one another.
And that is a challenge, but again, there's not one expert in all of those fields. If there was a company that's doing it all, we'd love to use them too, but Dude Solutions is one that will work for Roger, Mike, and myself in...
I got a company that does it all for $4,500 a year.
And what company is that?
Geocom.
I don't think we've looked at or heard of them. I've not heard of them.
Yeah.
No, and I will just say from my perspective, and same argument I brought up last time to go along with what Trustee Dalzell is saying, I would like to see us upgrade, as I would call it, our main hub. I mean, the ERP system is antiquated, and to continue to buy pieces that aren't going to talk to it, even down the road, they're not going to talk to it. I think we need to focus our efforts on getting the ERP system upgraded first. And then, and there are ERP systems out there that actually have work order and GIS as part of the modules. So it would make, to me, far more sense to get a system where we're just adding on a module that is going to talk to the rest of the system and is going to incorporate the fixed assets and a lot of other pieces that we need beyond just work orders and the GIS mapping. I think we have to look at the big picture as opposed to just continuing to take small bites out of different apples.
And like you said, now you're throwing yet another complexity into there. It also has to communicate with the ERP, the fire department, all of our departments. Again, I don't know if there's one solution for all of that.
I don't have the paperwork in front of me right at the moment, but what was the comparative company that Leon that did on Dude Solutions, and what was the other company? Upkeep. There you go. That was so Trustee Dalzell, what you were just saying with Geocon. The Geocon, you're confident it will talk?
They're a consulting
I mean, that's
company.
our big thing. In every single discussion we have here is this going to interact? And these guys know. That's all I tell these guys all the time.
Geocom is a company I use to provide the data changes that we have. So we have a new subdivision goes in. I get the information from the building department. I forward it off to Geocom, and presto changeo, they add it to my layers, and I've got an updated map, and I have it in a matter of a few days.
And are you using the same SSMMA?
No, we do it in-house.
Okay.
But is it also taking, a general work order, that the guys go out and say, all right, we need you to go fix this fire hydrant, and then the guys submit digitally back to that software, what they did.
Yeah, they've got Tyler's technologies. So Tyler has a work order system.
I mean, we're happy to take a look at it. The whole conversation we had last week, I was with all the department heads, was that we want, I'll just repeat myself for a second, but we want to have technology that talks to each other. We don't want to buy that dead dog like you were talking about that only has one element to it and stuff. But now, Trustee McLaurin, what you were just saying about this ERP system, will the ERP system talk to the geocon system? I mean, do they
if we buy the right one.
Huh?
I mean, if we buy the right one. ERP is just, I mean, it's the system that we have HTE now. HTE now is definitely outdated, and we know it doesn't talk to other things. So, and especially for the amount of money that we're spending on that, it needs to go. And we need to get something that is at least, in the 2000s. I mean, HTE is really old and really antiquated. If we get something more modern,
It's just a SQL database, just like all the other ones. It's just a matter of how much money you want to put into it to have it communicate with all the different functions.
but it's, I mean, again, and just over the weekend, just Googling things on the internet. I mean, there are software platforms. One I found was AccuFund. Now, I don't know if AccuFund will serve all of our needs or not. However, it's got 15 different modules that you can add on that already talk to the basic software. But it has a work order system, it has payroll, it has, like I said, 15 different modules that, again, are automatically, if you decide you want those, it's going to talk to the main general ledger software. In addition to doing all of the clerk's office functions, the general ledger, the accounts payable, the accounts receivable. You just have to define what you want and what your ultimate goal is.
Yeah, we found the one that we want. That's what we're trying to convince you of. So if this interfaces to an ERP system, then you wouldn't really have a problem with buying Dude Solutions?
I was talking about Spirit. If it interfaces to an ERP, that doesn't answer my question.
Okay.
Because we need it to interface to our ERP.
Right, exactly.
And until we have our ERP,
those are the
questions.
questions. Well, we're starting the demos now, and we are asking those very questions. So I would like to have the opportunity to be allowed to use what we know about our professions to execute that.
I'm just going to say, I think our point is you have to put the cart before the horse, or not put the cart before the horse. We want the ERP first.
Yeah, and I'm
that's
sorry,
the
but,
priority.
I have experience in this as well.
Yes, you do,
Right.
but not here. I mean, you might have it over in the police station, but not in these departments. Have you worked in Public Works?
I was the one who set up the original computer system here and interfaced with those.
I understand that. Did you work in Public Works? Do you
No,
understand
never.
their needs? Do you
Absolutely
understand the
not.
water
Well,
department's
nope.
needs?
It's-
That's what I'm getting to.
Okay, I'm a novice to the computer aspect of this whole thing. And again, we're trying to find software that meets the needs of the departments. And simply put, I'm not opposed, I never would be, to look at different ideas and so forth. We found an idea here. We're trying to modify that idea with Dude Solutions that they talked to us last week about the ESRI data collection that needs to go over to SSMMA and whatnot then too. I don't want to take this conversation over the top about, understanding each other's needs. We certainly value all the department heads' input and what we need to do here and stuff. But, at the same time, it is a commitment, and although you build, it's an annual contract, I hate to think we're one and done. I'd like to think long-term at this whole thing yet, too. So,
I absolutely agree, and I think that we are.
yeah, so again, I haven't had a chance to look at the numbers that Dude Solutions sent over. I'd be happy to, get the information from Trustee Dalzell on this GeoCon program. Trustee McLaurin wants a new ERP. What does the ERP stand for again, Trustee?
Enterprise Resource Planning.
There you go.
It's an integrated system that'll handle, like I said, all of our different functions.
So it
It's
sounds
not
like
just
we've
the
got a
general
pretty
ledger.
good grocery list of stuff going on here and that yet, too. So I'm not sure who we would assign to know enough about what each element is, to collect that data for us, to present back to the board and tell us what that would cost.
Can I voice an opinion to
Yeah.
start with? So ERP, over the years, the guts of an ERP system is the financial side. The pieces and parts that are added onto it, they usually aren't very robust, because that's not the focus of an ERP system. The ERP system is about financials. So,
Not all of them.
name one
Microsoft Dynamics that I'm implementing right now.
that does everything well.
Everything, no.
Okay,
But it
well,
does a
then
whole lot more than just the general ledger.
Well, I'm not saying they don't do it. They don't do it well. So I understand your concerns. And I've worked in systems that were hodgepodge together or didn't talk to each other. And we have that kind of thing here now. So I understand those concerns. But I want to be careful about putting all of our eggs into one basket that may or may not solve the problem for the other folks that have to use that system. So I want to keep our options open. I get that we need a new financial system, and that needs to be a good financial system, but these guys want a good system too. So I think we need to keep those options open to look at what can we use that solves those problems. And it's not just about a work order processing system. It's what works for them, just as we want the financials to work for us.
Joyce, would it be possible, who do you think would be the best person to collect all this information? You and
I don't
we've
know
got-
that you can do one person.
Okay.
I don't know everything that Danny needs to know.
I'm not saying that. I'm talking
Oh,
about
okay.
getting all this data, all this information. Bottom line is we have to understand costs. Where are we getting involved here with an upgraded ERP system? We have an HTE person that wants to upgrade that software. We have possibly a Geocon or a Dude Solutions thing. I need somebody that gives me all that information that we can look at a spreadsheet of some type and just say, listen, here's the decisions we need to make here and stuff. Financially, where do we stand, that kind of thing, and can we afford any of this and so forth?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
I'll give you some information that I have. We received a quote from Tyler, basic ERP implementation, with a few modules we don't need and a few that we do that weren't priced in there, is about $715,000. I think that's a little outside of our price range. Also, it's a little bit more horsepower than we need. We don't have the staff to function, Tyler, to actually execute it. We've looked at BSNA last week. BSNA has a lot of promise. It's a lot less. It's got a lot of good pieces to it, and there's some other local municipalities our size that are using that. We are going to look at, we got a couple more that we're going to be looking at. We're actually, Central Square was supposed to get back to me on their solution. I haven't heard from them. I just exercising all the options. We have one more company that we want to look at for sure. We haven't dug super deep, but we know that there's the surrounding communities our size and what the software is that they have upgraded to recently. So we've just started this quest. We certainly don't have the answers yet. We haven't delved deeply into how the software works. We've just seen things and gotten some dollars.
All right. So
that's about it.
My recommendation, and you're the chair in this committee yet too, but you've got a lot to talk about here, and certainly at 9:30 at night, and I think we covered a lot for this evening's meeting, but I really think you need an IT meeting to get back to finance and IT to figure out what we need, because they need direction. They need direction of what we're looking for. Because you just rattle off what you were looking for.
I'm sorry, Christine does not use the software. We do.
I understand. I'm saying the trustee brought the conversation up. So if it's of interest to the committee and we want to have something like this here, then we need to have more conversation. It might take an hour to have that conversation.
Absolutely.
Let's have a committee meeting and talk about it and stuff.
Sure.
Too. And this way we don't wait 2 weeks for that conversation to happen.
This is
if
not
going
going
to have it 6:30 next week or any time in between. Let's do it.
We're not there yet.
All right.
I mean, like Joyce said, she's still in the fact-finding,
There's
gathering
still a lot to
mode.
find out about different software. I absolutely have no problems with sharing that information. I don't want to jump the gun, because this is going to be I don't know how we're going to do this, but...
All right. Much like all of our jobs and all of our fields and all of our professions and stuff, you guys work super hard here all day, just like everybody else does too. I mean, we just need a target and a point person to go to when we look at projects like this yet too. We've all got enough of our own job to do, let's put it that way, and this is extra. You know,
This is a
more.
big project, and I
Yeah.
get that. But I think it's more than one person, because if you want all this wrapped together, it's going to take more than one person
Well,
to
that's what
come
I'm
up with
saying.
those
In
solutions.
any project, you need a project manager. You know, you need somebody that's overseeing it, and I think we've got enough on our plate right now, that other tasks that we have all day long.
I agree with you.
so.
Timing-wise, we were looking at putting it into the budget for next year. That gets us a start, and I shouldn't say just a start. In some cases, it would get us implemented. It's
But in
having-
some cases, implementation itself can even be a really long time.
Yeah. Minimum
We
for
don't want to
Tyler-
rush this.
Minimum for Tyler is 9 months for just the financial piece. I know for a fact it's 18 months to implement water billing. So put those two together, and how long does it take to get us to the financial section and water billing implemented? So we're looking at 2 years, and that's the good data. Usually it takes longer. So we have to look at implementation process too. One of the things that's going on behind the scenes right now is we're trying to exercise and clean up the chart of accounts, because we know when we come to an implementation, that's the biggest part of it, is getting that chart of accounts over to a new system. So there's a whole lot going on behind the scenes to get ready for that implementation. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter what system it is. We have to do some groundwork ahead of time.
All right, let me get some more data collection. Trustee, I appreciate what you're telling me. I didn't know about the other product, and we'll put a sheet together for that then too. No problem. I appreciate the department heads staying late for this meeting. If there's no other business, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we'll adjourn this meeting at 9:30 PM. Again, thanks for everybody for being out here tonight with us then too.